A 6-year-old asked Clint Eastwood one question, Cinea. The tough guy couldn't stop crying.
November 12th, 1983, 9:47 in the morning. Clint Eastwood sits alone in a cramped hospital waiting room in Carmel, California. His hands are shaking. The man who stared down outlaws in a dozen westerns, the icon who never blinked in a Mexican standoff, cannot stop his hands from trembling. A small boy walks through the door, 6 years old, brown hair, wearing a faded Superman t-shirt 2 sizes too big. The child looks directly at Clint and asks one simple question. 4 words. That's all it takes. The toughest man in Hollywood breaks down completely. Tears streaming, shoulders shaking, unable to speak for nearly 3 full minutes. But here's what nobody knew. This wasn't just any child. And that question? It revealed a secret Clint had been carrying for 27 years. A weight so heavy it nearly destroyed him. If you've ever hidden something from the people you love, this story will hit you like a freight train. Let me take you back. Because to understand why 4 words from a 6-year-old could shatter a legend, you need to know where this story really begins. 1956. The backstory nobody talks about. Clint Eastwood is 26 years old. Not famous yet. Not rich. Not the icon. Just another struggling actor in Los Angeles doing bit parts for $40 a day. He's tall, quiet, keeps to himself. People think he's confident. They're wrong. Inside, Clint is terrified he'll never make it. May 19th, 1956, a Thursday afternoon. Clint gets a call that changes his trajectory. A small Western TV show needs someone who can ride a horse. The show is called Rawhide. The role is Rowdy Yates, a cattle-drive ramrod. Clint takes it. 7 years on that show. 7 years of 18-hour days in the California desert. 7 years of dust, sweat, and wondering if he'll ever break through. During those years, something happens that Clint never talks about publicly. His father, Clinton Eastwood Sr., starts showing signs of illness. Fatigue, weight loss, confusion. The doctors run tests. The diagnosis comes back in October 1958. Progressive heart disease. Advanced. Terminal. Clinton Sr. is 52 years old. A hard-working man. A factory worker. A father who never complained, never showed weakness, never asked for help. The same man who raised Clint during the Great Depression, who taught him to be tough, to never show emotion, to handle everything alone. Clint visits his father every Sunday afternoon at the small house in Piedmont. They don't talk much. That's not how the Eastwood men communicate. They sit. They watch baseball. They fix things around the house. Silent companionship. That's their love language. But Clint notices something. His father watches him differently now. There's something in his eyes. Something unsaid. Something heavy. November 1958. A Sunday afternoon. Clint arrives at his father's house at 2:15 p.m. Clinton Sr. is sitting on the porch, breathing heavy, pale. He looks at Clint and says 6 words that will haunt his son forever. "Did I do right by you?" Clint freezes. His father has never asked anything like this, never shown this kind of vulnerability. Clint doesn't know what to say. He's 28 years old and completely unprepared for this moment. What Clint doesn't realize is that his father is asking for forgiveness. For all the times he worked double shifts and missed school plays. For all the times he was too tired to talk. for all the silent dinners and unexpressed affection, for being a Depression-era father who showed love through provision, not words. And Clint, trained by that same stoic upbringing, doesn't know how to answer. He says what he thinks he should say. "You did fine, Dad. Don't worry about it." It's not enough. Both men know it, but neither knows how to say more. 3 weeks later, Clint Eastwood Sr. dies of a massive heart attack. He's alone when it happens. Clint gets the call at 6:30 in the morning. He drives to the hospital. His father is already gone. At the funeral, Clint doesn't cry. He stands stone-faced while his mother weeps. Everyone whispers about how strong he is, how composed, how much he's like his father. What they don't see is the guilt beginning to calcify in his chest. The unanswered question. The words he never said. Did I tell you enough? Did I let you know what you meant to me? Did I answer your question the way you needed? Clint buries these thoughts. He does what he was taught. He works. Rawhide runs until 1965. Then comes the spaghetti westerns. The Man with No Name, the squinting stare, the silence that made him a legend. By 1971, Clint Eastwood is a superstar. Dirty Harry makes him one of the biggest box office draws in the world. He has everything he dreamed of: fame, money, respect. But late at night, alone, he still hears his father's question. And he still doesn't have the right answer. The main event, 1983. Fast forward, November 1983. Clint is now 53 years old. He's directed 4 films. He's produced 8 more. He's one of the most powerful people in Hollywood. He has built an entire persona around being the strong, silent type. The man who doesn't break. The man who doesn't need anyone. What America doesn't see is that Clint has spent 25 years avoiding anything that reminds him of his father. He doesn't go to hospitals if he can help it.
He doesn't talk about his childhood. He's never processed his grief. Then, November 10th happens. Clint's assistant, a woman named Patricia, calls him at 7:15 in the morning. There's been an accident. A crew member on Clint's latest film, a young production assistant named Michael Reardon, has been critically injured. A lighting rig collapsed. Michael is in surgery. The doctors aren't sure he'll make it. Clint immediately drives to Carmel Community Hospital. He paces the waiting room for 8 hours. The surgery is complicated, touch and go. Michael pulls through. Barely. He's in a coma. The doctors say it's a waiting game now. Michael is 29 years old, married, father of 3 children. The youngest is 6, a boy named Tommy. Clint doesn't leave the hospital. He checks into a nearby hotel and comes back every day. He feels responsible. It was his set, his production, his watch. This is exactly the kind of guilt Clint knows how to carry. He's been training for it his whole life. On the 4th day, November 12th, Michael's wife, Sarah, brings their 3 children to visit. The doctors have said Michael might be able to hear voices, that family might help. The 2 older children, girls aged 9 and 11, are frightened. They cry. They don't want to go into the ICU. But the youngest, Tommy, is different. He's quiet, observant. He has his father's eyes. Sarah takes the girls down to the cafeteria. Tommy stays behind in the waiting room. And that's when Clint walks in at 9:47 a.m. Tommy is sitting in a plastic chair, legs swinging because they don't reach the floor. He's wearing that Superman t-shirt, red cape printed on the back. The shirt is old, faded, clearly a hand-me-down.
Tommy is clutching a small toy car, turning it over and over in his hands. Clint sits down 3 chairs away. He doesn't know what to say to a 6-year-old whose father might die. What does the tough guy say when there's no script? They sit in silence for maybe 2 minutes. Then Tommy looks directly at Clint, and he asks the question. Did my dad know I loved him? 4 words, present tense. Not, does my dad know? The child has already moved his father into past tense. He's already preparing for loss. And his only concern isn't about his own pain. It's about whether he expressed his love clearly enough. The question hits Clint like a physical blow. Every defense he's built for 25 years shatters instantly. Because it's his father's question in reverse. It's the question Clint never thought to ask. The question that might have changed everything. Did my dad know I loved him? Clint tries to answer. His mouth opens. Nothing comes out. His vision blurs.
And then Clint Eastwood, the man who played the toughest characters in cinema history, breaks down completely. Tears streaming down his face, shoulders shaking, hands covering his eyes. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep you didn't know it existed. 25 years of buried grief pouring out in a hospital waiting room because a 6-year-old boy asked the one question Clint never had the courage to ask himself. Tommy doesn't understand what's happening. He moves closer. He puts his small hand on Clint's arm. It's okay, mister. My mom says it's okay to be sad. This makes Clint cry harder, because here's this child, facing the worst moment of his young life, comforting a stranger, showing more emotional courage than Clint has shown in decades. 3 full minutes pass. Clint finally composes himself enough to speak. His voice is wrecked, cracking on every word. Your dad knows, Tommy. I promise you, he knows. How do you know? Tommy asks, not challenging, just genuinely curious. And Clint realizes he's about to say something he's never said out loud. Not to a therapist, not to a friend, not even to himself in a mirror. Because I had a dad too. And I didn't tell him enough. I didn't say the words. I was scared, I guess. Scared it wasn't manly. Scared it wasn't what tough guys do. And then he died. And I've spent 25 years wondering if he knew. Clint looks directly at this 6-year-old boy. But here's what I learned too late. Dads know. Even when we don't say it. Even when we're stupid and silent and too scared to speak. They know. The way you look at them, the way you run to them, the way you hold their hand. That's the language. Your dad knows, Tommy. I promise you, he knows. Tommy thinks about this. Then he says something that will stay with Clint forever. But I think it's better if we say it anyway, just to make sure. Out of the mouths of children. What happened next? November 14th, 1983, 3:20 in the afternoon. Michael Reardon wakes up from his coma. The doctors call it a medical miracle. Sarah is there, the kids are there, and Clint is there. Michael's recovery takes 6 months. Clint pays for everything. The medical bills, the rehabilitation, the family's rent. He visits every week during recovery, and every time he visits, he makes sure to tell Michael something simple but crucial. You've got great kids, Michael. They love you. Don't ever wonder about that. They love you. But the real change happens to Clint himself. Something breaks open that day in the waiting room. something he'd kept locked for 25 years. After Michael's accident, Clint starts therapy for the first time in his life. At 53 years old, he finally begins processing his father's death. He talks about the unanswered question, the guilt, the fear of vulnerability. He realizes that his entire career has been built on playing men who don't need anyone, men who solve everything alone, men who never cry. He's been playing his father's generation on screen while carrying his father's unspoken pain off screen. And he decides to change that. The aftermath and legacy. In 1992, 9 years after that waiting room moment, Clint Eastwood directs and stars in Unforgiven. It's a Western, but it's a different kind of Western. The hero is broken, haunted, uncertain. He cries, he fails, he questions whether violence ever solved anything. In his Oscar acceptance speech, Clint says something nobody expects. "This film is dedicated to my father, Clinton Eastwood Sr., who taught me about work, about integrity, and about things I wish I'd understood sooner." It's as close as Clint gets to a public confession. People in the industry who know him understand. This is his apology, his answered question. 25 years late, but finally said. Behind the scenes, Clint becomes known for something else. He creates a foundation that helps families of injured crew members. No publicity, no press releases, just quiet, consistent support. Every family gets the same message. Tell each other you love each other. Don't wait. Don't assume they know. In a 1997 interview with Roger Ebert, Clint is asked about his father. It's one of the few times he talks about it on record. "My father asked me once if he did right by me. I gave him some throwaway answer because I didn't know how to tell him the truth. The truth was he did everything. He gave me every opportunity. He showed me how to be a man. But I was too young and too dumb to say it that way. I thought being strong meant being silent. I was wrong." Ebert asks if Clint ever found peace with it. Clint's answer is telling. "A kid taught me that. 6 years old. Asked me a question in a hospital waiting room. And I realized that all the toughness in the world doesn't mean anything if you can't tell the people you love that you love them. That's the real strength. The words." 2003, 20 years later. Tommy Reardon is now 26 years old. His father, Michael, made a full recovery and worked in the film industry for another 15 years before retiring. Tommy himself became a cinematographer. He's working on a documentary about Clint Eastwood's career. During an interview, Tommy mentions the hospital waiting room. He barely remembers it. He was 6. It's hazy. But Clint remembers every detail. "You asked me if your dad knew you loved him," Clint tells him. "That question saved my life. I mean that literally. I was carrying something so heavy I didn't even know it was crushing me. And a 6-year-old boy, scared and brave and honest, asked the one question I needed to hear." The documentary never uses this footage. Tommy keeps it private. Some moments are too sacred for public consumption. But Tommy does say one thing publicly in an interview years later. "Clint Eastwood taught me that being a tough guy doesn't mean hiding your heart. It means having the courage to show it." The lesson nobody expected. Here's what makes this story matter. Not the celebrity, not the drama, but this. We live in a world that confuses silence with strength, that teaches boys to hide emotion and men to carry everything alone, that makes vulnerability look like weakness. Clint Eastwood spent 25 years being the icon of masculine toughness, and it nearly destroyed him. The weight of an unanswered question. The silence between a father and son who loved each other but didn't have the language. A 6-year-old boy, facing the possibility of devastating loss, taught a 53-year-old legend what real courage looks like. It looks like asking the scary questions. It looks like saying the hard words. It looks like making sure the people you love know it, clearly, repeatedly, undeniably. Did my dad know I loved him? Did I do right by you? These aren't just questions. They're the bridges we're too afraid to cross, and we wait until it's too late to realize we should have been running across them all along. Today, Clint Eastwood is 93 years old now, still making films, still working, still strong. But a different kind of strong. In every film he's made since 1983, there's a moment. A father and child, or a mentor and student, or two people who care about each other. And one of them says the words, "I love you. I'm proud of you. You mattered. You matter." It's become Clint's signature. The moment of vulnerability, the cracking of the tough exterior, the truth spoken aloud. Because a 6-year-old boy in a Superman t-shirt taught him that real heroes don't hide their hearts. They speak them. Final thoughts. If this story moved you, there's a reason. We've all got unanswered questions. We've all got words we didn't say. We've all got people in our lives who deserve to hear how much they mean to us. Don't wait for a hospital waiting room. Don't wait for a tragedy. Don't wait until it's too late to wonder if they knew. Say it now. Today. This moment. Tell them. And if you've been carrying a question like Clint did, carrying the weight of words unsaid to someone who's gone, hear this. They knew. The way you're haunted proves they mattered. The way you're hurting proves there was love. That's not nothing. That's everything. But do better for the people still here. Be braver than the generation before. Say the scary, vulnerable, beautiful truth. That's the real legacy of this story. If this hit you, hit subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment telling me, what's the question you need to ask? Or what's the answer you wish you'd given? Let's be brave together. Because in the end, being tough isn't about silence. It's about having the courage to speak your heart before it's too late.